Hi everyone. This is the beginning of video series where we will learn how to code in p5.js. This first video is going to be an introduction to p5, and I will also be introducing you to this coding editor called Glitch. So let's begin with the website for p5. What it is basically a library of a language called JavaScript, and it was meant for creative coding. What that means is that it was made specially keeping in mind artists and designers so that they can create generative art or games or data visualization or even maybe interactive websites. It's an open source, so you can see there's a whole community out there where you can actually learn about p5 as well. Also, they have their own editor, which means if we go here, you can see that this is a specifically designed editor where you can actually write your code and work. But for our purpose, we are going to be using this one called Glitch. And the main reason is that technically this works perfectly fine too. One of the major reasons that we are going to be using Glitch is that it is way more easier to collaborate in real time on this website. So for what you have to do is before you begin is that you have to sign up. It's free, so you can sign up here. But since I already have myself signed in, I'm just going to show you the dashboard and how it works. I'm going to go first here to a blank sketch. And we call Sketch in p5 is basically it's been designed around this idea of, sketching philosophy because it's made for artists and designers. All right, so now here we are inside this sketch. I'm going to take you through the interface here just to give you an idea how this works. So the first thing that we can see here is that there is already a name assigned to this sketch, which I've already given. If I will be sharing this sketch with you, you will not have access to edit the code and work within it. So one of the things that you must remember is that there's this thing called remix project. So that's going to be really, really important. Once you remix the project, this is going to be copied in your account, and then it will become available to you to start editing and writing your own code. All right, so let's try and remix this one. So if you also notice now the name itself has changed because what it does is that it gives a randomly generated name, which you can change on your own here. p5 first sketch, maybe it's already taken. So if there is already a sketch that exists on Glitch with the same name, you might run into this kind of error. So let's see. Okay, maybe nobody has taken this one, so let's try it. You can also edit here and add description, but I'm not gonna bother with it. Also, once you sign up, you might see the interface like this, which is going to be the standard theme. But if you like to change your theme, you can make it dark. I just like to work it with this. Another thing here that I want to show here, maybe your page will open up like this. So I'm going to go step by step. If you see here show as an option, there are two options which will be available to you. So one is this editor where we will be writing our code, and the other is where we will see the things in action, right? Whatever code we have written, how it is working. So you can either open it in another tab, which you're going to see the entire thing. Since we don't have anything, you are seeing it as a blank thing. Or let's say if you don't want to do it, you can actually open it within the same thing. So this is what it was open before. You can increase and decrease the size. You can change the browser size. So that is something that if that's what you prefer. Generally, it's a good idea because while you actually write your code here, you can see the changes happening in real time. So that is kind of really helpful. Also, if you see this format this file option, generally what happens is, and maybe this is something that I can talk about later, But this is really helpful in terms of keeping your code organized and proper in terms of its indentation and everything. So let's say if I write something here and I've made spelling errors. Okay, so make sure that you do not make spelling errors, because those are something that the environment might not understand, and then it will give errors. So it will be like, I don't know what you were just saying. So you'll run into errors and nothing will show up. So let's say if I've made a circle here and then I add, maybe I just do it like this, maybe it's just not super organized. So if I format this, it's going to, make it really nice and clean. So that's one thing. Okay, so here if we see, there are a few things which kind of are pre-set up in this folder, in this file that we have in our sketch. One is the asset. We are going to be talking about it later. It's not something that we will work in right from the beginning. Maybe when we start working with other assets like media, images, sound files, and everything. So we can talk about it later. Don't worry about these two things. Just leave them as it is. This JSON file and everything is just to organize your code. So don't worry about this one. This is basically where you can add description of what your sketch is about. You can add any sort of description. So right now I'm going to leave it as the basic one. All right, so this is basically index.html. We're not going to get into details about how exactly JavaScript works, because B5 is a very simplified way of working with JavaScript. But this is slightly important for you to know, because where our sketch resides, this one here, if you can see here, this is the one where we are actually going to be writing our code. This is actually being put up in the index page, in the HTML page. And that is how we actually see it on the website. So this is the simpler sort of explanation around it. It has its own structure and language. So if you can see, there are different tags between HTML. There is this heading where it's the beginning of the things which are inside it. And then there's the body. Of course, there's nothing in the body. You can see as this one is kind of empty right now. And we have actually using this source file, which is sketch, in a .js format, which is for JavaScript. One more thing is this source file. If you can see here, we are pulling up. This is helpful for us to actually use the library P5. What that means is that we are going to be using language which is specifically understood within the library of P5. And we need to pull that in here, this library, for our code to be understood. If we don't do it, then it will not sort of work. So these two things are put here. We're not going to make any changes to it. So, and now this is the file that we will be sort of working in. All right, so before I sort of move forward, let me take you here. Okay, so this is going to be an important thing where you're going to share your project, not just in terms of as part of submissions, but you can literally share your project with peers, with friends, maybe in your portfolio later on too. So why not? The way you can actually share your projects, there are different ways of going about it. So one, if you can see, is the live site. Let me make some changes here so that that kind of makes a little bit more sense. Okay, so it's not the most amazing one, but let's say we have a blue circle here. I'm sharing this. Okay, so if I use this live site share, I'm copying it, and let's say if I shared it with someone, it's only going to show whatever is there on your canvas. I won't be able to see, or the person whom you've shared it with will not be able to see any of your code or the editor itself. But for our sake, if you want to let's say, collaborate with your peers or with me, or if you want to, or if you're running into trouble and if you have any questions and if you want to show your code, a good idea is to make sure to use this link to share your project. So that way I will get to see the code. However, remember, there won't be it won't be editable. So that means that if you have shared this link, it would not be accessible to everyone, that they can enter it and edit your code. If you want to collaborate in real time, what you need to do is give access to it for editing. So that way, that you can do by sending an invite. So you can either literally use this search and add project members, which might also start showing up here since I don't have anyone here. So you can see that there are no project members, but if you send an invite, they will receive an invitation, and if they accept, and then you guys can start working collaboratively. Here you will, right now you're just seeing me, but let's say if it has been shared and there are 2 or 3 collaborators, you will see their icons as well. All right, so this was a quick, brief intro, and also to save up space, if you don't need to use this all the time, you can literally collapse it. And now you have more working space to see your window in it, etc. Okay, so let's start quickly with like first sketch. I'm not going to get into the details of exactly what I'm doing. This is just for the purpose of showing how we can write code, and then things will start, appearing here. How in a very simple way we can do that. So for now, I'm going to take you quickly. This is sort of a preset way that you can remix and start with your projects for each time. There's this function setup, which is basically in this one, what I have asked is basically to create a canvas. What I have said here is you can either give fixed size of the canvas, which is going to be the width and the height of this one, or you can make it a bit more dynamic, which in this case I've put as window width and window height. So that means that whenever I sort of try and adjust it, it's going to take up according to whatever the size of this window is, instead of me giving a fixed size. So that readjusts. And, well, that is basically the canvas size that I have said that, okay, create a canvas of this size. But because I want it to be resized as well, I've put this another function, which is of resizing. So I don't need to worry about it when I actually resize our window. Third thing is here, which is basically most of your action happens in terms of all the animations and your code working, is here. So right now I have created a background, which is a very light ecru shade. I don't know if it's going to be so visible for you, but that's the kind of color I've put here. I have filled a circle with blue color, and I've made a size of a very small size. We can try and make it a bit more interactive. So let's just say I changed this to here, and okay, maybe let's just keep it 100 size. Okay, so now if you see, it is kind of following my cursor, okay? This circle. But an interesting trick would be, let's say, if I move my background here to our setup function, now I can literally see the trail of all of my mouse's position, since it is basically following a circle. So now you can see this full sort of path, and it's going to be fun, right? Okay, so we can do something else as well. So maybe we can add a bit of conditions here. And we can sort of change whatever the condition. So if I say, if mouse is pressed, technically that basically is say true, then it is going to change the color. So let's say right now by default it is white, as you guys can see. But if I change it, by changing it, I mean if I press my mouse, it has changed to blue, right? Or I can say else, else you fill black, and it's going to be a blob. So without me pressing it, basically, it is going to be a standard black blob, which is not the most pretty one, or maybe I should keep it, or maybe I should add stroke. Oh, it might be a bit more visible. Okay, so here it is, but if I press it, then it changes to this one. And now when I leave my cursor, it changes back. If you want to make it and have fun with slightly more colorful variations of it, I'm just adding some random colors. So now if I keep my mouse pressed, you can see it is all pretty much colored. If I leave it, then it turns into black. You can do much more than this. Okay, so here I'm going to format my file again just to see if I haven't been super organized with it, and it kind of works. Okay, I'm going to quickly show. Okay, so now this is just a quick way of seeing what are the things that we can do, and we can certainly do more. I just want to talk about some of the other tools that we have here available at our disposal. So if you can see, there are a couple of things. These are tools. Okay, so the logs in terminal are not something that we will be working. It's a little bit in advance, so don't like for advanced stage, so don't worry about it. One of the things that you can work here is this rewind button. So let's say if you're super lost, or if you've made changes to your code where it was working before and it's not working anymore, and you want to go back, you can literally look at your previous history, and it can actually, if I click it, it's going to highlight and tell you the changes that you've made. If you want to rewind your project, then you can click it and it will take you back at that spot, or you can literally cancel it. So it's kind of like the version history that you see in Google Doc. So just think of Glitch as like what Google Doc is for Word. This coding editor is for that. So we can do online collaboration as well. And also we can go back and see version histories too. Another thing is the app status. We're not going to be bothered with it a lot. It's just that telling us how much time that we're using. With our free sign up with the Glitch account, we are getting 1,000 hours per month. Technically, they're super enough for us. Even if you are, let's say, using, I don't know, doing 40 hours per week, you will still be left with a lot of hours. So we don't have to worry about or work with any sort of upgrades in that. Another thing that we were talking about is the error. Okay, so there's something called console, which is going to be our friend when we are working and making some errors. So how we can access console is, and let me show you. I'm using it in Chrome. It might be different in a different browser, but I suggest using Chrome. So you can go here to your 3 dots, more tools, and you can click developer tools here. And your console will appear. There's also a shortcut, I think Control-Shift-I for Windows and Command-Option-I for Mac. I have a lot of things popping up right now. I have these warnings. Okay, let me first clear this up. Okay, so this is the place where we will see, I'm going to make it a bit, it's taking up a lot of space for now. Okay, so yeah, so this is a space where it can tell us if we are making any sort of errors and we can't figure it out. So for instance, one thing that we need to remember is that code is sensitive to spelling mistakes and errors. So for instance, if I say I made this mistake, and now you can see that if I go to my console, it is showing me this error, right? Sometimes it's simple enough that it picks up that, oh, okay, please correct it to circle, because the P5 environment already understands that there is this function called circle and nothing called circly. So it is making a suggestion for us. Other than that, if it's not such a simple error, but like any other general error, you can also see it here. So it is telling you, okay, this thing that you have put here is not defined, and you can check it here in your sketch, the sketch.js file at number 20. So what number 20 is basically your line of code. So this is telling you, okay, go back to this line number, and that is where you've made an error. So these are like really helpful things for us, because it's kind of pointing us to the right place. So here, I can sort of fix it, and then things should be hopefully okay. All right. If you want, you can actually remove the warning sign, because then it will, we might not need to see a lot of warning sign. You can see that I've been having a lot of other warning signs here. If I remove those, it will just make it a little less cluttered. Information we will need, because later on when we need to see some sort of information, we need to access those, and errors is of course something that it is popping up, and we also want to see the errors if we make any. All right, so this is how to access console and work along with them and make some changes. So I guess this is it. All right, so I'm gonna take you through the sketch in our next video, and we will talk a bit more in detail about how these things work and how can we sort of start writing our own code.